So the important thing to note is that content is king, and it's the thing that does get overlooked all the time. The three questions I get asked the most is, which social media channel should I be using? Should I be using LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram? The other big one nowadays is TikTok. What's TikTok? How should I be using it? Should I be using it? This is the thing we get asked the most, is which of these social media channels should I be using? The next one is, when's the best time to post? Is it 1 o'clock? Is it 3 o'clock? We can cover this in other sessions, to be honest, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the algorithms kind of help you out with that nowadays. And then also, how much should I be posting? Should I be posting every day? Do I post once a week? I don't want to feel like I'm bombarding people, but I also want to get my message out there. So where would that work as well? So yeah, those are the three questions we get asked all the time. Which social media channel should I be using? When's the best time to post? And how often should I be posting? And the answer to all those, to be honest, is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to any of those questions. What does matter is, what have you got to post? And that is the thing that everybody overlooks all the time. They go straight into, which social media channel should I be on? Where are my target audience? And I'm going to go there. How many, I've got to be posting all the time. How many times should I be posting? It doesn't matter. The question that always gets overlooked is, what have you got to put in the first place? And content is king, which is why we're kind of doing this session specifically on it, because it is the thing that gets overlooked so much. And unless you're able to create the content kind of almost naturally, which we'll get onto, it doesn't matter, to be honest. It's what you don't want to do is become a slave to the platform and kind of let your schedule dictate your content, which we'll come on to. But that's the kind of first thing to say about, is that content is so important to this. These social media channels are very demanding. And if you're creating content almost just to keep them happy, then you're not going about it the right way, to be honest. So if you think about it, posting on social media is easy. It's actually why we don't actually teach people how to post on social media in terms of like actually posting. So click here, type words in, upload a photo, click post, because that is the easy bit. And if you think about it, posting on social media is very easy to do. The hard bit is knowing what to put and creating that content in the first place. That is the hard part to this. As I said, putting in a few words, uploading a photo or a video, and then clicking post or tweet or publish, whatever it might be. That's fairly easy to do, and that takes you probably about 30 seconds. The hard bit is having that image in the first place to upload, or knowing what to write. That's the bit that takes your time. And often that we find is people will just be kind of staring at a blank screen, not knowing what to put, really struggling to think of things. And so that's why the creation of the content is so key, and like I said, does get overlooked all the time. So there's three types of posts, basically, just to kind of break it down so people can help you kind of work through it. So the one we'll be spending most time on today is around images and photos. That it is the thing that gets most shared on social media. It's the thing that you'll probably all share the most if you are starting to create your own social media, is that you'll be sharing these things, because it is probably the easier one to create, and it's the one that can help you get your message across. So there's images and photos. There's also videos. So I know Mick's on the call today, so he'll back me up on this one. Videos are great. They're really, really important to share. The social media channels love the videos. People love consuming the videos. So it's a really good thing to get into. The note about the videos is to, where possible, upload them directly to the social media channel. So sometimes this might not be possible because you don't actually have the original video. You just have the like the link, because you might be sharing someone else's video. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But a mistake we often see is someone's had a video done, or they've created a video themselves. They then upload that video onto YouTube, which is fine. That's a good thing to do. But you then share the YouTube link on all the other social media channels. Now, with all these sorts of things, they won't stop you posting it, but it's not really the best thing to do. mainly because all these social media channels are basically in competition with each other for your attention. And although Facebook won't stop you sharing a YouTube link, it doesn't really like you doing it, because Google and Facebook are probably the two biggest competitors in this kind of digital world. And they don't want you as an individual user to click on a YouTube link, because then you end up on YouTube, and then they just want you to keep that. They're worried you're not going to come back, basically. So you'll notice this with YouTube videos. There's often like an auto play for the next video, or they're trying to keep you on the platform. And all the social media channels, they're always trying to do this. They're all fighting for your attention. And the founder of Netflix, one of his quotes in an interview once was his three biggest competitors were YouTube, Facebook, and sleep, because he knows a lot of people watch Netflix before they go to bed, and he'd rather you just stayed awake and watch more, because the more you watch, the more you consume, the more ads, the more data and ads and stuff and all that sort of thing. So it's worth bearing in mind, where possible, try and upload the videos directly. It can be a bit of a pain, because you feel like, okay, I've got to upload the video directly to Facebook, directly to Instagram, or directly to LinkedIn, directly to Twitter, directly to YouTube. But at the moment, that is the better way to do it. And then share those videos just on those platforms. If you're gonna, if you want to kind of try and get most out of it, like I said, don't take that as a kind of you're not allowed to share links thing. It's not that at all. But just be mindful of that. If you have got the video that you've created yourself, it is a good thing to share it, directly to Facebook and directly onto LinkedIn and things. So just bear that in mind. And then the third type of post that you can put out there is, I always contradict myself here, but is then links to other websites. So it might be a link back to your website. You might share a news article from the BBC that's got something to do with what the services or products that you offer. So you can share links to other websites. Now, it's slightly different in this. The social media channels don't want you kind of leaving their platform, because on the whole, most of them have their own web browsers. So if you use any of the social media channels on your phone, so say if you're on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, and you click on a web link, it doesn't take you to Google or Safari or anything like that. It takes you to there's basically like a web browser within. It takes you to a web browser within Facebook, because then if you click back, you then end up going back to Facebook or back to LinkedIn. So, there's a little bit of difference there. The key to it all is to always look to share some sort of image, have some visual aspect to your posts. So you can see what we're going to be really focusing on is there's the images and photos. But whenever you share an image or a photo on Facebook, or a video, or even a link to a website, it does feature or kind of come with some sort of visual aspect to that post. So obviously the photo or the image gets shown. If you're sharing a video, then that will get shown as the kind of thumbnail or the preview of the video. And you'll also have like a preview to the website as well. So it's a really, really important thing to think about nowadays, is to think about how you can always share some sort of graphic. But there's a term that a friend of mine uses a lot, which is thumb stopping content. So if you think about how fast people are flicking through your feed on social media, you're not going to read something that's just a block of text. The thing that grabs your attention immediately is that are those photos.
Sorry, I was waiting to come in.
Hello, yes, hello, sorry. So what we're going to do is, so if you think about how fast people are flowing through the content, you've got to have that image or that video to grab people's attention. And so thumb stopping content is quite a good term that we often look to use. So if you think about it in that terms, like always try and have some sort of visual content to the post that you're putting on social media. So the main part of the session today is looking at images and photos and the types of things that you can do to share these across. And the three kind of main types of images and photos that we tend to use that you might think about using, we're going to kind of go through. And this is where I'm going to invite Matt in, and he can kind of give us some of his design advice, tips, things that we see in terms of the different things you can start to do. So the first one, and to be honest with everybody, I felt a bit guilty or bad or worried about mentioning stock image anywhere near a graphic designer, which Matt is, because, it's something sometimes that they might not always think much of. But in terms of stock imagery, that this is something that you would probably look to use. For some of you, you might not have the capabilities to go out and pay for photography, or take a lot of photos for yourself. So using stock imagery is something you may look to use. But Matt, this is your point. Do you just want to share your thoughts, ideas, tips on like how you can use stock imagery?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with stock images as a designer. I think you can find oh, sorry, I've crashed now. So we're signed up to Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock gets you 40 images. I think that's about £20 to £30 a month. It is always nice to create these images from scratch. As I was saying, as a designer, it's always something that I look to do is create it from scratch. But people just don't have the time for this really. So stock images is definitely a way to find basically any image you want. And then you can use that on social media. So I'd recommend, if you've got a business, I'd definitely recommend signing up to a stock website. And yeah, you can just download any resources when you need to. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think at the moment, Matt, so some of them have got they do have free trials, don't they, with some of these things?
Yeah,
so
I think Adobe Stock you get
have a go and have a look around.
I think you get 10 images on Adobe Stock. That's probably the best one. I mean, we use Adobe software anyway, so it makes sense for us to use that. But you've got iStock, Shutterstock, and all these. I think you get about 10 to 20 images to start with, and then obviously you have to sign up for a monthly fee after that.
Yeah. So yeah, we would use those things. We've got a couple of links that we'll share in the email that we send out later on as well. There are a couple of free versions of these things. So there's like Pixabay and a few others that we'll share links to where you can get these sorts of things from. I think the thing as well with the stock images that we kind of want to give you the advice on and help on is then you can kind of take the images and almost personalize them a bit. So we've done it before for clients where we may put a kind of little board around it or bring it their own branding in and stuff. Matt, do you want to just share a couple of tips, and maybe if they do want to like add a little bit of text to these images, just being aware of like the color contrasts on backgrounds?
Yeah. So the main thing is, one thing I always think is people seem to try and throw their logo into the post, but you don't need to necessarily do this. Your logo is going to be on your profile picture anyway, so you don't have to pull this into the actual image itself. I think Rich pointed this out earlier. Try and keep the images fairly simple. Your text can actually go alongside the image, so that can be put in the post anyway, so you don't have to cram all the text into the image that you're putting in the post. Just try and keep things simple. Use contrast colors. I seen someone the other day using grey text on a dark background, things like that. Just never do anything like that. You want high contrast colors here, so white on a dark background, or dark on a light background. Just really trying to grab people's attention when they're scrolling through the newsfeed. So, and another thing is to keep space as well. You want a bit of padding around the image. Never put text too close to the sides. Always keep a bit of space. Put your content in the middle. Nice, big, bold text. I think what you've got to remember is people are going to be scrolling through the newsfeed on their mobile phones. They're probably going to be going quite fast. So you just want something to grab their attention, really.
Yeah, and I think something that we see a lot of as well, we will contradict ourselves momentarily with the next point. But like Matt said, just try and keep it simple and be aware of this 20% text rule. So this kind of comes into play more when you're doing ads, because it will actually penalise you for this a bit. But even with organic posts, when you're showing on the social media channels don't really like it if there's too much text on the images. So the mistake that we often see is, it might be that you've got an event that you're promoting, and you've got the leaflet that you've had created for the event, and people will take a photo of that leaflet and then share that photo on social media, and that you think there'll be a lot of text on there. You're better off kind of almost taking it apart and finding an image that represents the event, and then put any text that you want in the post itself. There may be a few things that you do want to add in the image, maybe like a phone number or an email address, but like Matt said, really keep it quite basic and it's and simple. And it's almost similar to posts themselves. What we try and recommend to people is don't try and put too much in one post. And that kind of carries through into don't try and put too much on one image, actually, because, if you've got 2 or 3 things that you want to say, that's 2 or 3 posts. and just schedule those out over 2 or 3, 4 days and find an image that kind of best reflects or represents what you're trying to talk about. So that would be one of the things we would say with those kind of stock images is, there's some great ones out there. As I said, we'll share some of the free ones that we kind of point people towards. But at the moment, like we said, I know a few of them, the paid ones do give you a free trial. So it's worth maybe downloading some and then having that as your kind of template file of images that you take that you've got to use, and just don't be afraid to kind of tweak them up a bit. Maybe put a little bit of your own wording across them, or as I said, possibly your logo. But as Matt rightly said, don't be too worried about that, because whenever you share something on social media, your name and your image, your logo is going to be kind of accompanied in the post. So
if you've got a clear, quite often you have a transparent PNG. I'm not sure if all of you are aware of what that is, but if your logo's got a clear background, a transparent background, then if that's likely to sit on the image quite nicely. It's just to avoid, quite often you see people chucking logos onto their posts and it's still got sort of a square white background on the logo that sits on top of the image, and it just sort of it doesn't look very nice. You want it to look professional. So if you've got a logo with a transparent background, then it's likely that will sit on top of the image quite nicely. So you just got to remember about the colors as well. If you've got an image in the background with a lot going on, then maybe posting your logo on top of that might not sit too well. So again, it's just trying to think about keeping things clear as possible, really.
Yeah. So the next one, I said I did warn you we were going to contradict ourselves now, would be around sharing kind of testimonials or quotes or the meme type thing. So this does work very well. Certainly as businesses, it is a good way to get your testimonials across. It's quite hard to share testimonials on social media. If you've had nice reviews left for you on Google or on Facebook, or ones that you've received, you maybe have them listed on your website. It's quite hard to actually convey those in social media. You could put the testimonial itself in the post and just share a kind of like a thumbs up sort of stock image photo. But one of the ways you can do it is then look to create an image which is text. And I did say we contradict ourselves. So sometimes the 20% text rule, you just got to ignore it. Don't worry about it. Just accept that it might not be great for the social media channel. All we'd say is just don't only do that. Maybe mix it up a bit.
I think one thing to remember is keep the testimonial short and sweet as well.
Yeah.
Don't put a huge paragraph of a testimonial on there in an image. If people wanted to stop and read that, they'd go to your website or Google reviews. So try and keep the testimonial, to 2-3 lines tops, really, because as I said earlier, people are going to be scrolling through their news feeds quite fast. They're not going to stop and read a huge paragraph. So just keep it nice and sweet, short and sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. And the other point as well with this is, again, just think about the background. So if you're sharing text on an image, if you've got white text or black text and you've got quite a good vibrant image, then like Matt said, is that kind of contrast again might come through. So Matt, have you got any of those kind of top tips of how people might kind of get around that issue?
It's the same as before, really. I mean, for quotes, I'd recommend just keeping a solid background and using white or black text on top of it. Or your brand colors. That's another thing. You really want to be putting your brand into your social media posts. So if you've got brand colors, obviously ours is the blue color, but actually we're bringing in more vibrant colors now. So you want people to sort of, if they're scrolling down the newsfeed and they see your colors or they see your fonts, you want them to instantly recognize that it's you that's posted it. We sort of want to embed your brand into their memory. So every time they see those colors or that font, they know it's come from your company.
Yeah, and I think what I found, and having worked with Matt now for nearly 2 years, is that I used to think, right, I've got to try and think of something like really clever here. How can I have some really clever, funky, like get an image where the wording sits and kind of place it here and place it there. And then you hear someone like Matt talk, who's obviously really, really skilled and got great experience on this, and they're just like, keep it simple, just have like a white, just keep it really simple. And actually you realize then that, you sometimes possibly overthinking it, or if you don't have, if you are using things like Canva, which we will come onto in this course, or you're creating these kind of quotes yourself, don't try and make it something that, you can't, basically. And don't be afraid to go like right back to basics and keep it really, really kind of simple, because like Matt said, you'll really be able to get the colours through. He mentioned about the kind of vibrant colours that QBD are trying to use at the moment. Those are the things that we've brought in when we've been advertising these courses and these slides that we're sharing today. So you can even see with this, Matt's kind of, practicing what he preaches really with this. Even look at the slide that's currently on screen. It's simple, but it's branded and it's consistent.
Yeah.
That has a bigger punch to it than trying to be too fancy.
The key things are your brand font. I mean, a lot of people won't have a brand font, but if you don't, maybe look into getting yourself one. And images and colours, they're the main things really. Colours and fonts, especially if you're using bold, big text on your images, they're the key things that people are going to pick up on as they're looking at your posts. So yeah, just keep using your brand colours, keep using your brand fonts really.
And that kind of brings us on nicely to our third point, which is around kind of infographics and stats. So this is one that we'll often kind of work with clients or recommend that people do. So you might start sharing some stats about things about your business, about, the percentage of people that recommend your services, or, how much you save money, how much you save the client money, or, certain things like that. Or you might share industry stats that are relevant to what you do and kind of back up some of the messages that you're putting out there. So again, it comes back to those kind of brand colors and fonts, is having that set to kind of build it through. Matt, I know you've got some thoughts on kind of
infographics are always quite difficult, to be honest. Again, if you sign up to things like Adobe Stock, you can get a lot of infographics off these stock websites, but obviously they're not very easy to edit. Quite often what a lot of people do is they use things like, you've got PowerPoint and Publisher, these sort of free tools that everyone has really. You can build infographics in there, but again, try not to use the default styles. Bring your brand colors into it, bring your brand fonts into it. Even better, if you are creating some quite detailed infographics, if you do have a graphic designer at hand, that is always the best way to go for infographics, just because they're a little bit more technical, there's a bit more going on. It's not so easy to edit yourself really.
Yeah, and I'd say something that almost we've fallen foul off with this. So I was really keen for QBD to start sharing like a load of industry stats and a load of infographic things about what we do. And I was guilty of it. To start with, was around trying to put too much in the I wanted the icon and the percentage, and then the kind of short paragraph which explains what the percentage is and what the icon kind of means. And yeah, like Matt was saying, he was just like, hold on a minute, let's strip this right back. Let's just have maybe the icon and the percentage, and then everything else you can explain it in the post above.
Yeah.
Or
and what you got to remember,
keep it really basic.
What you got to remember is the thing you're shouting about is the stat itself, isn't it? People aren't bothered what that stat looks like. So just keep it simple and use your brand colors, and really, use a bold font, make the stat big. If you're just shouting about, 40% increased traffic or something, make the 40 massive. That's the important part. Really grab people's attention. Yeah.
And if you take that thing of thumb stopping content again, that's what you want people to see.
Exactly.
So don't forget how quickly people are flying through their news feeds, and they're not really ever going to pick everything up. So you just want them to see that, you've got a very short time to kind of grab their attention to kind of really make it punchy. And I know one of the things we always say, so we've mentioned a bit about kind of brand colors, maybe like a font for your business and all these sorts of things. If you kind of have got it already, or you're kind of not sure what that might be, you obviously can take a lead off the logo that you have already. But if you do want some advice on that, or some guidance on the sort of things you should do, then that's the sort of stuff we can help with. So you can book that kind of follow-up one-to-one with me, and we can give you that little bit of guidance of how you might start to kind of build that up, and where you might start to look to kind of like nail down what your brand colors are and what your brand fonts are. But usually, most of you have a website, you can kind of take your lead from there. But I think probably the key message throughout all of this is when you are sharing images and photos on social media, don't be afraid to kind of edit it, have a go, create it, because there are some great tools out there. But don't try and kind of like be too clever with it. Keep it simple, but keep it kind of really on your brand colors and brand guidelines, which, like I said, we can kind of help give you some guidance on if you need it. So the other part to it that we were going to cover is, so size does matter with these things. And to be honest with you, this is the bane of my life. So we schedule a lot of social media content, not just for ourselves, but for our clients. And in an ideal world, so Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram all have a an ideal image size, which is slightly different. And it's really annoying. So we've had to do things like, so if we've gone and created an infographic for somebody that does say, you know, like 40%, blah, 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 whatever it might be, we've actually had to create that in 4 different sizes because we want it to be optimized to have its best chance of looking good on the platform. The reason why you would do this is because if you just shared a kind of normal image, or if it was an image that wasn't to the social media's liking, in the kind of preview or how it presents it in the newsfeed, it will just crop it and it will choose how it crops it. So you will kind of lose almost ownership of it, and it might just crop the middle or whatever it might be. So that's something that we've always really tried to do. It's annoying that there are these different sizes, but it's something to bear in mind again. But I used to kind of create 4 of them, and then when I started working with Matt, I know Matt, you managed to come up with a bit of a clever
I sort of find a bit of a loophole. So this is purely just a guide, really. You can find exact dimensions for each platform on their own websites, but so we use 2 sizes. So I think Facebook, we post on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter, don't we? They're the 4 main.
Main 4, yeah.
So for Facebook and Instagram, we use square images, you know, just a 1-to-1 ratio. And then for Twitter and LinkedIn, they both use landscape images. So essentially we've just got a square one and a landscape one, and they fit all 4 platforms. So LinkedIn and Twitter, they do have technically different dimensions, but you can get away with just using a landscape image that fits both.
Yeah, so I mean, this was when Matt figured this out. Really, it was a godsend to me, to be honest, because it was like, great, we don't have to do 4. I mean, we do have stuff to do 2, but it's better than 4. So we would create that infographic stat again, say for example, in a square size, and then we would share that on Facebook and Instagram because it works well on those platforms. And then the more kind of rectangular landscape one we would create, and that would be for Twitter and LinkedIn. So it is something to bear in mind, and it might be that it's difficult. You know, it might put you off thinking that you've got to keep editing these sizes all the time. So what I'd probably recommend is that you think about which of the social media channels is almost like your priority, and then kind of create the content for that one. Facebook is probably the most flexible in terms of you can share quite different, you can throw quite random sizes at Facebook, and it is quite good at figuring out what you're trying to do and present it well. Instagram, it's got to be square, otherwise it just won't let you go anywhere near it. So that's probably the most demanding of them. And then, like I said, Twitter and LinkedIn, the difficulty there is that you're kind of at the mercy of the crop, and it might just crop it off. We do see that if you're posting directly to LinkedIn, it will allow you to almost put whatever image size you want, and it will kind of show the image. But if you're scheduling your post to LinkedIn, then it's not as kind of forgiving, and it will kind of crop you off. So think about these things. It is worth bearing in mind. If you do want those ratio sizes, we're happy to share them with you. Just get in touch with us at the end. Or but think about, if you're primarily sharing on Facebook and Instagram, you want to start thinking in a kind of square size. And if you're LinkedIn and Twitter, think of it more as landscape. And we've started to do this when we're maybe taking photos to share on our own social media, or we've helped clients with their own, that if they're mainly a Facebook and Instagram type business, the photo they even take on their phone is square, knowing that it's going to go on those platforms, so you can kind of start from there. Whereas if we're going to be sharing stuff on Twitter and LinkedIn and we're taking a photo, we'd automatically take it landscape because we know that'll kind of work well on those platforms. So sometimes just start with the end in mind, almost, to think, okay, this is an image that's going to go on Facebook or on Instagram, so I'm going to take it as a square photo on my phone so I can just get the ratio and the proportions and the thirds right. Or this is going on Twitter and LinkedIn, so I am going to take it landscape. This video that I'm going to do, I'm going to take landscape because I know that this is where it's going to go to. So that can kind of help you a little bit as well with that. The other part to this that we just wanted to cover, because it can be quite important, is around like your profile picture and the cover image of any of your social media channels. And the key to this is to make sure they're consistent. We'll start with cover photos, for the cover image first. So this is like the banner that sits at the top of your social media profiles. I often describe this as almost like a window into your business. So you may share an image or a photo that gives people a good representation about who you are and what you do. You might edit that image and put some text on it and maybe use it as more of a kind of advertising banner to say, you know, different services or offer that you might have on. You don't have to change these very often. I'd probably recommend you change them quarterly, maybe. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's more about branding. It can obviously be in line with maybe one of the images, the big images that you've got on your website as well, to maintain that consistency. But the key is to kind of have that consistency across all the social media channels. Now, the fun thing with this is if you think the image size for a normal post on social media is different, you want to check out the cover image ones. So Facebook's quite nice. Twitter's all right. Not many people would see those. So it's not so much of an image, not so much of an issue. The LinkedIn ones are really random. They are like a letterbox. So it is quite hard to find an image that might kind of carry across and go well across all these different ones. So just have a think about that as well. The cover image, it's right to have that consistency. And like I said, maybe have it as like a window into your business. That can work quite well.
Don't put too much text in there either. That's the main thing, you know. It's completely fine just putting a photo in there, you know, just a photo that represents your business, maybe with a bit of your own brand colours on. That's completely fine.
Yeah, we found that the more text you put in these things, the harder it is then to think, is it going to fit in all these different things, and are they going to crop it out? So yeah, like Matt said,
how's it going to look on mobile and tablet as well? That's another big issue.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'll be guilty of being caught out with that recently. On if you create an event on Facebook, you know, it can sometimes do that as well. So it's worth bearing those in mind. With the profile pictures, then again, it's key to have that consistency. And the thing that we always recommend with this is that a lot of logos, maybe when they're initially created, are probably more like landscape, because you'll have the name of the business in it. And what we see a lot is, don't kind of worry too much about trying to squeeze your business name in your logo on social media, because no one's going to see it. It's going to be so tiny on the screen, and the name of your business is always going to be next to that picture on any social media channel that you have. So you could just have the logo or just the symbol. And the other thing that we've seen, and some people that follow me on social media will kind of know this trick that we do, is we sometimes just have our face, our picture as the profile picture, because we do want to come across as human beings on social media and not just like a business. So it's those sort of things to bear in mind, but to have that consistency again. But just don't worry about trying to squeeze the wording of your company in your logo. You don't really need to worry about that sometimes. But Matt, I know you'll say like it's key of that, just making sure it's really clear and crisp again, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you've covered it exactly. If you've got an icon or something you can use for your business, then yeah, just chuck that and don't use the full logo, because you're not going to see it. Again, if you've got a high res logo, that's going to look much better. Far too often we see companies with low res logos, and I think it just straight away, as soon as the person visits your profile, it's going to take that professionalism away. They're not going to trust you as much because you're not even able to put a high res logo in your profile. So if you know the designer that's done your logo, request a high res version and get that added into your profile.
Yeah, and it does make a big difference nowadays. I think you can't underestimate, you know, a lot of the assumptions and a lot of kind of first impressions that people would make when looking at your website and looking at your social media. And with these types of things, it just take that little bit of time just to kind of fine tune these things. And individually, it might not feel like it's making a big difference, but if you did that on all your social media platforms, so you made sure that your profile image is high res on all the ones that you use, and you've got a good cover photo that's consistent, and then that ties in with your brand guidelines, and then the images that you start sharing on social media all kind of match in. After a while, you can really start to appreciate how it looks. The platform we think kind of showcases this best. And if you did want to get a kind of a quick snapshot of what your kind of visual presence is on social media, is if you do have an Instagram profile, look at that, because it has that kind of grid format, and very quickly you can see on the screen your logo, that little bit of wording about your business, and then probably the most recent 6 or 9 images. And that will give you a good clue how consistent you are with your branding. And so that's probably the best snapshot you can look at and think, oh, okay. And we've done this a bit with clients where we do their branding and we represent them on social media, is we'll actually use that as our template to check, you know, are we posting too much of the same thing? Because you do want variety, but it does have to be consistent. You know, is it looking good? You know, is there a good flow to this content? Instagram's probably the best for that, to give you that kind of snapshot of where your social media is at. So there's a few tools that we always like to share that we love kind of using, that we kind of recommend to people use. Obviously, Matt uses a few more kind of fancy dancy things than this sometimes with the work that he does, but things that we like to recommend that people are doing if you're looking to manage your own social media yourself. These are the types of things that we always kind of point you in the direction of. We will put these links in the email that we'll send you along with the slides today as well. But you can use things like Pixabay. So this royalty-free image place. As Matt said, there's the better sites like Shutterstock and Adobe. Those are the better ones to use because the options, the variety of images they get are better. But maybe go to them first and have your free trial. But places like Pixabay, there's also Unsplash and Pexels. These are 3. They're good. You know, they are good for starting box. When I first started working for myself in 2016. I didn't have any kind of imagery of my own. I couldn't afford a photographer to take some. So I did lean on these quite heavily. And they can work. Just be aware that, you know, if you find something on Pixabay, you think, well, that's a really good image, the chances are other people are using it as well. That's where slightly editing it might come in handy. You might just put a little border around it, or you might put a little bit of your own information on it. You can just personalize that stock image and kind of make it look a bit more of yours, just to help you stand out a bit, because other people unfortunately will be using these kind of stock images. We've mentioned it a bit. We never kind of tend to give kind of proper live demos on this sort of stuff, but Canva's a really good tool. I know that, so Matt would use Illustrator and I would use things like Photoshop. But Canva can be really good because what it will do is it will give you those image sizes. So we talked about the importance of having the right size image for the different social media channels. Go into Canva, it's free to use. It will tell you the optimum size for a Facebook cover image and the optimum size for an Instagram post. And even if you just use it for that, it's pretty good. But what a lot of people do when we run kind of longer training courses, we kind of talk them through this. They'll go and find an image on Pixabay, download it, upload it into Canva, crop it, maybe put a bit of overlay text or put that quote on that they want to share, download it from Canva and then upload it into social media. So you're kind of bouncing the thing up and down, but you can start to combine these tools quite well, and it can just help you with creating the kind of right size of images. So when people are scrolling through their feeds, it really does look quite strong. And then the final one that we've pointed people in the direction of a bit is one called Pictochart. So it's similar to Canva, but it is more based on infographics. So like Matt was saying, you know, don't just, if you're using things like PowerPoint or Publisher, don't just go straight for their kind of clip art, stocky icons. Pictochart's quite a cool one. Like Canva, it's free to use to a point. You can go in, you can have a look, you can create, you know, graphics and pie charts and graphs that really look quite visually strong. It enables you to edit the colors. So again, you can make sure that your brand colors are coming through and your brand fonts are strong. You can download those as JPEGs or PNG files and then share those on social media again. So those are the 3 tools that we tend to kind of recommend. And something that's kind of coming as an underlying thread to all these sessions at the moment is, you know, because we are in lockdown, people, you know, on the whole, probably have a little bit more time to consider their marketing or to look at these things. You know, just go and have a go. We kind of always say that you're not going to break it. So have a look at Pixabay, download some images, upload them into Canva, or have a go with Pictochart and just kind of see how you go on. There's loads of things out there. If you are getting stuck and you don't quite know how to add the text or add an extra logo or edit things on Pictochart, you know, all these platforms are really, really user friendly, and they've got some great how-to guides as well to kind of take you through it step by step. Or there's usually a YouTube video that just kind of will show you how to do it as well. So Don't be afraid to look at these sorts of things. But as we've said throughout this session today, we're on hand as well. If you do need just a little bit of guidance or a little bit of advice on how you might do things, just get in touch with me. We're always happy to point you in the right direction. But take a look at those things, give it a go, kind of see how you get on. And hopefully you can start to take kind of ownership and create some really good content for your social media that you share regularly. And then it really starts to help get that kind of brand across. And then people won't even have to necessarily read your post. They'll just kind of be skimming through and they'll see it and they'll get that. They'll know it's you, basically, because of that consistency of brand. So in summary, we always like to leave a few minutes at the end for questions, but content is king. So content is really, really important with this. Don't let the schedule dictate your content, make the content dictate your schedule. So, look to what you can create. We're having a lot of conversations at the moment with people saying about, should I be doing more videos, or, should I be doing this or should I be doing that? Only create the content that you kind of feel comfortable that you're going to be able to create on a regular basis. So if video is not really your thing and you don't really feel very confident doing it, either speak to Mick or don't worry about it, to be honest, because you don't want to feel like you're kind of a slave to these platforms all the time. An example, actually, I forgot to share earlier around this in terms of how content is demanding. So ages ago, we did a little bit of training with a financial advisor kind of service in Birmingham. And they'd gone through that work where they were saying, okay, we've identified our target market and we'll go for a younger demographic, and by and large, roughly speaking, younger people are on Instagram. So therefore, we're going to use Instagram to speak to these people. And from a marketing strategy point of view, that kind of makes sense. They've identified a target market. They feel that the majority of them are Instagram. They're going to start using Instagram to reach these people. Kind of makes sense. But then I asked them, what are you going to put? Like, how are you going to be able to create this content? Because, it's got to be a square image or like a square little video up to 60 seconds long. Unless you've got a lot of content that you're going to be able to create naturally on an ongoing basis, it's not going to be worth it. I'm a huge advocate of social media, but it's not that, it won't be that good. You'll spend so much time creating images, you'll never see the return on investment back. So as well as identifying the platforms, because that's where your target audience is, your ability to create the content almost like naturally comes into play. And the example I gave, and the kind of the counter example that I always give to that, is a friend of mine's a florist based just up the road from me in Bromsgrove. She's a florist, and she said to me, Rich, which social media channel should I use? I was just like, Instagram. Don't worry about the rest of them, just do Instagram. You compare her ability to create content for Instagram compared to the financial advisors. So Anna, she's got like obviously a studio where she works, where she creates all these flower arrangements. She could take her phone, spin round 10 times, take 10 photos in 10 different directions, and she'd have 10 photos for Instagram. And if you're posting 3 or 4 times a week, that's almost a month's worth of content there. You compare her ability to create content for Instagram compared to the financial advisor. And that's the thing really that we're trying to get across with this session as well, is that be honest with yourself. How easy is it for you to create content for that platform? And if it's going to mean you're going too far out your way too often, probably not going to be worth it. So just be realistic about that. And that's why content is king to this. And don't overlook that when you're thinking about which social media channel should you use and how much you should be posting. So do also utilize those great tools out there that we've gone through. Kind of do have a go with it. See what you can do. So we're on hand to give you any more advice if you want to. And kind of as we've been saying, be consistent and also consistent with your branding. Identify some fonts, get some colors, really lock down, and you can use that as your base point to create these things. If you're not quite sure what your brand colors or fonts or guidelines should be, or even what they are, then you can get in touch with us. And we can help you do that. But that's that sort of thing again, of just start with that base and then build from there. And then as you grow into it, you'll find it a lot easier to create these kind of infographic stats or kind of different images and things on social media, because you'll have that base.